Today I'm taking you through the process of shaping highly detailed floral pieces out of hardwood. It is the difference between this and this. I'm using 3 different species of wood, a walnut, a maple, and a white oak for the 3 different types of wood tones that I want. You can use any types of wood that you would like. The walnut is the easiest to carve. The white oak is pretty dense and hard, but the maple is the hardest. When you purchase the wood at the wood store, it comes in 3/4 inches thick, mostly standard. This is where the planer is going to come in. You can leave it that thickness and shape it if you would want, but I think I planed mine down to about 1/2 inches thick. The height that you want it to be is going to depend a lot on the elements that you have on the rest of your sign. So that's kind of depending on what you're going with, but I'm pretty sure that mine are about 1/2 inches thick here. Next, I'm using my laser to score out my pre-designed floral pieces. You can either hand draw them, you can paste them from a paper template. There's so many different ways to accomplish the same thing. I just happen to already have a laser file. I have a laser. Why not score it? Make it easy for all of us. My favorite blades to use are the Pegasus Modified Geometry blades in the number 3 or the number 5. The number 3 is a thinner blade. You can use that on the walnut because it is a softer wood, but you definitely need the number 5 when you go up to the maple and the white oak. It's a harder wood to get through and just makes your life a whole lot easier to use the little bit thicker blade. But I like how it is I think I use the double reverse tooth, so it's cutting not only as it's going down, but as it's going up, and makes for the perfect smooth cuts around all of your pieces. For MDF, I would also use the number 3. I don't often cut MDF anymore because I have the laser, but if I have to, I would just use the number 3 modified geometry blade. I just keep a whole bunch of them at home on stock in case I need to grab and use them for whatever. With these hardwood flowers, I am going to cut them on my scroll saw because if I did use my laser, I would have a charred edge on the side, and I do not want that. I want to be able to see the beautiful graining on the side, especially with these hardwoods. So I just take the couple extra minutes, a little bit extra time, and cut them out on my scroll saw. Now we're getting into the fun part, the shaping. We're going to take it from a 2D flat image to a beautiful carved, intricate 3D flower. On the right you have my belt and disc sander, and then over to the right you can see my dust collection system. Sucks the dust up into this big old bag. Anytime you're going to be carving wood, especially MDF, but also these hardwoods as well, you're going to be creating a lot of dust, so make sure they're wearing your mask. Gloves with this type of bit is definitely necessary. It will tear your hands up. Wear your gloves. Anyways, I use my belt and my disc sander first to get that initial dimension where instead of just a flat piece, I am going to press in on one side where the petals will kind of fold into each other, so I have a low point next to the petal in front of it and a high point towards the back. This will give me my initial base for carving and just get that first angle that I would like. I use the disc sander for that, and the belt sander sometimes I will go in with the smaller pieces, and I'm able to get that initial indent with the belt sander depending on the size of the piece that I'm using. So sometimes I'll do that as well, but definitely the disc sander to get that angle to begin with. And then we go in with the Dremel. I am using this carbide bit. It is metal. It loves to eat the wood. It makes it so much quicker than the little disc sander things. All of the steps I'm going to show you, you're going to do for every single petal. They will look a little bit different depending on the shape of the petal and the flower and all that kind of stuff, but I can't show you every single one. That would take us hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. I am using 2 bits in this video. I have that carbide bit that I've talked about, and I'm also using the drum sander for the maple. For some reason, the drum sander was just working better than the carbide one, but I will go back and forth between the two sometimes. But essentially they're the same shape and relatively the same size, so they're doing the same concept. I do have different sizes of each of these if I need to have a skinnier or a fatter bit depending on the size of the flower. Based on the flower that I'm using, say I'm doing a peony, I will look up a picture of a peony, especially one that was drawn. Pictures of ones that were drawn in like a charcoal helps a lot, because then you can see the shading on it, and the darker pieces is where you're going to want like the concaves in it, where you want it to be carved out. A lot of it, so much of it, is learned by trial and error. I've been carving flowers now for probably 4 years, and I still learn each and every day on new sets. In the carving part, how I decide kind of where I want to carve is looking at those pictures, and you want to look at the veining and also the way that each petal folds into the other. Some have curly pieces to them, some are just super flat and hollow, so you're pretty much just going to hollow the whole thing out. Some have a whole bunch of veining in them. It varies so much between flower to flower, and looking at those pictures will really help you see. Sometimes I will carve out a divot for the vein, and sometimes I will let the vein stick out. Again, so much of it is trial and error and just figuring out what works for you and what you like in your style and everything. On a set like this with, I think I had 5 or 6 flowers here, all together, I think it probably takes me 3 to 4 hours just in the carving process of it. That's not any of the gluing. That is all just the carving. So definitely be patient. This is not a quick process. It is a labor of love, blood, sweat, and tears most of the time. At some point I will link all of the products that I'm using, so you can go and click on that link and find everything, the bits, the glue, the mask, all the things. If I was using MDF, which is my normal medium to use, I would prime it first, and then I'd have to sand that and paint it and all that stuff, but we get to skip that because it's hardwood. So we're going to glue, we're going to oil, and wham bam, thank you ma'am, they are going to be gorgeous. Being hardwood and knowing that I'm going to oil these up, I am going to glue them first before I finish them. That way the glue can have a really good clamp adhering to wood. That's the only way like wood glue is going to cure. I'm also using a Titebond super glue here to try to clamp it so the wood glue can do its thing. After all of that glue is cured, I am going to top coat it with General Finishes. I am deciding to use that here versus an oil because I don't want the wood to fully change its color. Sometimes the oil can yellow or orange the wood. This General Finishes top coat does not do that. Here I just wanted the top coat and it's beautiful. Just for safe measure, I'm going to let it sit overnight. I always do a dry fit to make sure mainly that my paint is good and everything looks great before I decide to start gluing it up. I will use a cardboard template. I don't trust myself to glue this stuff up straight. No. So I use my laser to cut out a cardboard template so I know exactly where each piece needs to go. And I do have a separate video on how I make the cardboard template. I also have a separate video for the solid hardwood frame here that I'll link the hardwood frame video as well if you want to go learn how to make that. Once everything is perfect exactly in its place, I say a little prayer, I take about 700 breaths, I walk away, I make sure I'm good and ready to go, and we start the glue up. So with a painted backer like this and wood, you can't just use regular wood glue, it won't last over time. But I do like to throw wood glue in there in the mix. I will use a combo of wood glue, E6000, and super glue, just kind of depending on what I have laying around, or maybe even all three some of the times, just to make sure these things aren't moving anywhere. The super glue helps clamp the other glues while they dry. The super glue is not going to last long term. Each of them kind of have their own uses, so why not throw all of them, throw everything at the wall, and make sure something sticks. Once it dries, I add a French cleat. I do think this one is rated to 75 pounds. I pack it up and it's a stressful process. And it's on its way to its customer. What else would you like to see? Do you have any questions on the floral pieces themselves? Are there other videos that you want to see? Let me know.